Let's talk about the tools available for Android programmers. So far, we've chiefly used ADT, that is, Android Developer Toolkit. This kit included, for instance, Eclipse. Some time ago, Google changed its policy and moved most of its resources from Eclipse to Android Studio. It's a new environment based on IntelliJ IDEA CE. It's a huge change because the usage philosophy of IntelliJ IDEA is a bit different. It emphasizes using the interface via keyboard. Workspaces and interfaces work slightly differently. It seems that Google treats Android Studio as the main environment and will certainly develop it more. So it's good to start working in it right away. We get Android Studio as a package which we can download for any major system on the market. After downloading and installing the kit, we get a ready environment including chiefly the IDE itself. That is, the editor where we'll program. We also get Android SDK, which is the set of tools and libraries needed to program for Android. The latest versions of API and the emulator are also here. We can start programming right after downloading the kit. A huge change introduced when switching the IDE from Eclipse to Android Studio was changing the system responsible for building packages. So far, Eclipse used the ANT system, which is already pretty obsolete. That is why Google decided to switch to the Gradle system. It's a new tool with huge possibilities, which has one very important feature, namely, enables the management of the dependencies in a project. If you wanted to use external libraries in the ANT system, you had to place them in the project as jar files, or as directories with subprojects. In the case of Gradle, we have a ready solution, where it's enough to provide a line which describes the package to be downloaded from the server and unpacked inside our project. Thanks to this, we no longer need to store all the projects along with the code. We can store only the information about the name and the version of the libraries we need. Because Android Studio is supplied as a kit, it's ready to work immediately after its installation. It should be noted that Android Studio is still in its beta test phase. This means that the 1.0 version hasn't been officially released by Google yet. However, the beta solution is stable enough to be used in everyday work. The only issues that may arise are the ones when using the Canary channel. It's a special method of access to the latest Android Studio updates, where we can always find some news. Not all new features have been checked well enough. And that is why it may sometimes happen that we get an update from the Canary channel which doesn't work with our project, or simply causes some problems. Android Studio includes, for instance, the SDK Software Development Kit, which is extremely important. It's a set of tools and libraries which are necessary to create Android applications. To see what is included in the SDK, let's launch the console and go to the relevant directory. In the case of Mac computers, the default place of installation is the Android Studio directory. In the case of other systems, It is the directory where the Android Studio was installed. Inside the SDK, we have a number of directories. Let's start with tools. Here we have, for instance, the tools responsible for launching the emulator, or the viewer hierarchy. Let's start with the most important one, the Android tool. It launches a program named Android SDK Manager. It's a program whose task is to manage the contents of our SDK. Due to the fact that SDK includes various Android versions, Google decided that it will release a version where it's the user who will decide which version should be downloaded locally. This tool allows us to download only our chosen items. In most cases, the latest stable version is installed. However, because Android L and Android Wear have been recently released, Google changed the general idea a bit, so the version installed as the default one is Android Wear. Unfortunately, this version is not suitable for all applications. That's why, for the purpose of our course, I recommend using the Android version 19, that is, KitKat. Let's install this version after uninstalling Android L. At the same time, we'll download the SDK platform, emulator, version x86, as well as the source files useful when checking the parameters or the returned values. After choosing the relevant items, we click the Install button. We must accept the license and wait for the full installation. As for now, we already have access to the API version 19. It's important to use the x86 version of the emulator. Now, we just need to install the Intel x86 Emulator Accelerator. It's an Intel-supported technology which enables launching the emulator directly on the CPU. Instructions performed inside the emulator will be performed directly on the CPU, which gives us a huge boost when it comes to the emulation speed. After downloading this tool, we just need to start it. For that purpose, we enter the place the Android Studio was installed. Here we can find the Extras directory, where we'll find additional items which don't belong to the platform. It also includes the Intel directory created a moment ago. This directory includes Intel XAXM, which we must start as well. In the case of Mac computers, depending on the system version, we have to install the relevant version of the tool. On my computer, the tool is already installed, so I won't need to do this again. The installation is very simple. We just need to click through each step of the installer.